Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us to revisit a video that we did at this time, roughly last year, that being the international break, where we can see the home straight up to Christmas. So we are asking on Christmas Day, which teams will be higher and which will be lower? You can have your say in the comments. I'm going to have mine first, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it as well. We've got 6 games coming. I believe there is 3 at home and 3 away for everybody. You can see a 3-game week there at the end of November, and then nice little run through December, just weekend rounds before the complete madness that is Boxing Day, and then that weird fixture, and then the one New Year's Day or whenever they're doing it, and then the FA Cup, and it's all crazy all the way through then pretty much to March, isn't it? But we're going to be looking at Christmas Day, and is your team going up or is your team going down in the table? We're going to try and use a bit of data. We will allow, or I will allow myself, the ability to add hunch or feeling into this. And you too can have your say, as I said, in the comments. Remember, if you're particularly triggered by someone suggesting your team might not win every game and go up the table, then probably get off the internet, to be honest, because if you can't cope with my channel, I don't know how you're going to cope with anything else. But we'll try and call it using a mixture of data from past events, data in terms of form of teams and opponents that are coming up, and we'll add in a bit of a hunch. And it is what it is, a little bit of fun. And really, if I could predict the future, I wouldn't be here doing this, would I? So let's all try and take it for what it is at face value. I'm going to look at the form table. That tells us the last 6 games and particularly how that ranks up with a team's current league position, because it would stand to reason that a team who are much higher in the form table than they are in the league table might be projecting a rise up, and the opposite way round might be projecting a drop down. The XG table, lots of people love that, lots of people hate that. It's a stat, it's data, it's probability, it ranks chance quality, and people get very concerned and confused when the data doesn't quite add up. I quite like it when the data doesn't add up, because then you've got some digging to do. Good finishing, bad finishing. Have you faced good finishing? Have you faced bad finishing? Have you been a bit lucky? Have you been a bit unlucky? Could be any number of things. We're going to look at the opponent's position coming up for the next 6 games. We're also going to look at the opponent's form as well as the opponent's XG. And then we're going to add any other business. There's a new manager coming in at a couple of our clubs. There might be a takeover. There might be a points deduction at one of them as well. And we might well, just damn well, have a hunch, which is allowed, of course. Right, that's what we're going to do. Shall I shut up and we'll get on and do it? And we'll start with Bournemouth, who are steaming away at the top of the table, 40 points from 17 games. What do the numbers say about whether they're going to be... Look, they can't be higher. They can only maintain or drop down, possibly a place. Not going to be any more than a place, looking at the points gap, is it? So in the form table, Bournemouth, there's a -1 there. They're first in the league and second in the form table. The XG as well, they're third in the XG table, but first in the league table. Now, opponents coming up, their average position of the 6 opponents Bournemouth will face between now and Christmas is 10th. And that is tricky. The 4th trickiest opponent position average of any team in the league coming up. The opponent's form is also tricky. The 5th trickiest there. From the form table, the average position is 10.5. You can see that goes slightly for Bournemouth still, who are up there in second in the form table. But in the context of the league, it is tricky. However tricky things are for a team up the top of the table. The opponent's XG is also hard. The 2nd highest XG table position of the average opponents coming up. Any other business, I mean, let's be honest about this. it all depends on Fulham, doesn't it? We've got Bournemouth first, Fulham 2 points behind. I don't know. If Bournemouth have had a slight overperformance and Fulham are coming up on the rails, then Bournemouth could still quite reasonably, despite playing very, very well, drop a place between now and Christmas. They could be well on their way to promotion. And I've put down there in any other business, round 21, Bournemouth play away to Fulham. So I think you can see where I'm going with this. I'm going to project that Bournemouth will be lower at Christmas, but calm down, Bournemouth fans. They could still be miles ahead of particularly 4th place. We'll see how we think West Brom are going to go in terms of making it a 3-horse race. I just feel Fulham might be able to make up that 2 points across the 6 games, especially with that fixture at Craven Cottage. So I think Bournemouth might be lower, but look, first world problems. They could still have, where are we going to be, 23 games. They could still be well on course for well over 90 points, which would mean promotion, wouldn't it? So there you go. And I think I've given away my answer already as to what we think Fulham are going to do. But there we go. We'll do it anyway. The form table and the XG table, they're top of. And they're second in the table. So that intimates that they're the best team in the league by those 2 metrics. Whatever you feel about them, you're allowed to feel about them. And you can tell me in the comments. Just don't shout at me for feeling something different. It's all subjective, isn't it? Opponents' position coming up for Fulham, the average position of their next 6 opponents, 15.7. That is the 23rd most difficult in the league. Or, in other terms, the second easiest run in the league. Opponents' form, 13.2 on average in the form table and in the XG table. All adds up quite symmetrically there. 16th in terms of difficulty for both form and XG. And they do have that big game coming up against Bournemouth where they can do something about their head-to-head if they do want to overtake them. And as you can probably guess from my comments over the last 2-3 minutes, I am projecting they are going to do just that. Fulham to go higher, which means I expect Fulham to be top on Christmas Day. Just purely, they've got that head-to-head. And there's a lot of metrics there telling me that at the moment, on form and XG, they're the best team in the league. And they have an easier run than Bournemouth. And they play Bournemouth. That said, we could well still have both teams way, way out. Possibly pushing or over 50 points around that amount. So they could well both be looking at automatic promotion. Which brings us to West Brom, because they have got to keep up the chase, haven't they, on these 2? And there is a 6-point gap from 3rd down to 2nd at the moment. In the form table, it's not actually that good for West Brom. They're 3rd in the league, but 9th in the form table. So there's a -6 there. The XG table, not too bad. 3rd in the league, 2nd in the XG table. Opponents' positions coming up, not too bad. Fairly middling. 12.3 on the average and 12th most difficult. Opponents' form, slightly easier as well. 17th in terms of difficulty. 13.5 is the average place in the current form table, which lasts for 6 games, the one I've been using. In terms of XG, their opponents are not good at all. 23rd in the league. 2nd easiest in terms of XG. However, there is a 6-point gap between 2nd and 3rd. So even though things look like they stack up fairly well for West Brom, you'd be looking at sort of 4-5 wins out of the 6 for them to be able to go up a place. So I will be saying neither higher or lower for West Brom. We think they may well be exactly where they are in terms of the table. Will they be closer in terms of the 6 points? Who knows? You tell me down there in the comments. Moving on, and we will go to Coventry, who are currently 4th. In the form table, though, they're only 13th. So there's a big -9 there. which is a bad start in terms of projecting higher or lower. XG table, not quite so bad, but still down a position, 4th to 5th. Opponent's position is difficult. Look at that. They have the most difficult average opponent over the next 6 games of anybody in the division. 8.3 is the highest of anybody in the division over the next 6 games. Therefore, as you can imagine, look at that. Opponent's form, 5th most difficult, 10.5 on average in the form table. And opponent's XG, most difficult in the league. So it looks like Coventry have a tricky run coming up. I've written down there any other business home form. If they can maintain their home form, there's more than a chance they'll stay exactly where they are in 4th spot. They've only got a 2-point cushion on Stoke, and then you get the massive crowd of teams below them. So I'm going to predict Coventry may well be lower than 4th place by Christmas, mainly based on the position and the average opponent that they've got coming up. And they've got to close that gap between their superb home form and less superb away form. In 5th place, we've got Stoke, who in the form table, not very good, but there has been a recent 3-loss in a row run there. 5th down to 16th for Stoke in the form table. In the XG table, they also are 2 places below their actual league position. So neither of those bode particularly well to begin with. Opponent's position, 6th most difficult in the league, average of 10.8 coming up. However, opponent's form, despite it being the 6th most difficult in terms of position, in terms of form, not difficult. It says 20th. 20th most difficult there. Opponent's XG, 14th. Now, the question I've got is, was that 3-game losing streak an outlier? When we look at the whole fixtures for Stoke, it does appear that way. So for that reason, I'm going to suggest they may be higher in the table by Christmas. And we've said Coventry have got a difficult run. There's only a 2-point gap there. Would that be enough for the two to swap? You let me know what you think in the comments. QPR in 6th position. However, the form table has them in 15th. Big fat -9 there. And also the XG table, a big fat -8. Wonder why that is. QPR easy to score against? Lots of late goals. I wonder why that number is the way it is. Opponent's position, not too bad. 14th most trickiest in the league, so bottom half for that. And opponent's form, 12th. Opponent's XG is 9th, so it gets gradually harder as we go position, form, XG. Whichever one of those you think means the most. Flip a coin on that. Got 3-sided coin, anybody? But you know what I'm saying. And I've written down the bottom there, numbers versus eyes. I watch QPR and I make them a good team. I like the way they play. I like what they do. Do concede a lot of goals. A lot of the numbers suggest that maybe they're a bit higher than they might otherwise be. So numbers versus eyes. I'm going to go with the eyes, and I'm not going to project QPR to drop down any places. I'm going to say neither. I think they might well still be 6th at Christmas Day. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll go on to Blackburn, who are currently 7th, but the form table has them 12th, and the XG table has them 9th. So dropping down or projected down in both of those particular metrics. Again, read whatever metric however you want to. That's the beauty of it. You can argue anything, can't you? Opponent's position, 14th. Okay. Or average position is 13th, which is the 14th trickiest in the league. Opponent's form, it's all very close to what they're doing. Look, 0.7 places out from their own form, and exactly the same in terms of the difficulty, in terms of their opponent's form being the 12th most difficult in the league, and Blackburn being 12th in the form table, all stacking up very close, as is the XG. Look, they're bang on there as well. Their opponent's XG is the 9th hardest, and Blackburn are 9th in the XG table. It's a tight table there. You can see Blackburn on 26 points with 3 teams below them on 25 and then 1 on 24. And with that being said, I think there's not too much margin for error for Blackburn in terms of maintaining. And I think we might get a few teams below them as we're about to go on that might push them a little bit. So I'm going to say lower for Blackburn. We're going to move on to 8th place Huddersfield, who are 14th in the form table and 10th in the XG table. So again, a projection downwards if you isolate and trust those two particular metrics. In terms of opponents coming up, average position of 11.5 and an average position in the form table of 15.2. The average position in the table, it makes it 10th trickiest, but in the form table, looks quite good for Huddersfield. 22nd in terms of form of the opponents they're coming up if you average it all out in terms of divisional difficulty. Their opponents' XG, though, look at that. All over the place, this. 5th most difficult on the XG. So perhaps they're playing some sides that are out of form that, if you believe in XG, may come back into form. Really interesting one with Huddersfield. Do you believe the opponent form is enough? I wonder. I'm saying they will be lower when we come to Christmas Day. So there we go. There is my top 8. So we don't talk for hours and hours and hours on this. We will call it quits and we will do the next day, the next third of the table tomorrow. So do come and join me for that. Find our way through the international break. Get your thoughts in via the comments on the 8 teams we've done thus far. And I will see you tomorrow for the next load. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.